Visiting Day by Jacqueline Woodson, illustrated by James E. Ransom. Visiting Day. Only on visiting day is there chicken frying in the kitchen at 6 a.m. and Grandma humming soft and low, smiling her secret just for Daddy and me smile. And me lying in bed, smiling my just for Grandma and Daddy smile. And maybe Daddy is already up, brushing his teeth, combing his hair back, saying, "Yeah, that pretty little girl of mine is coming today," with all the men around him looking on jealous like, 'cause they wish they had a little girl of their own coming. Only on visiting day does Mrs. Tate come over when the sky is still pink, heavy with presents for her son, Thomas, saying, "Please, can you take these with you?" And Grandma taking the presents from Mrs. Tate's arms, and shooting me a look that says, "You better not make a sound about Mrs. Tate not having money to take the bus up there to see her only son." And I sit quiet, respectful. Only on visiting day do I stand patiently at the bus stop, holding tight to Grandma's hand until everybody's inside. And we're all passing around fried chicken, cornbread, and thick slices of sweet potato pie until maybe we think we're going to pop. But instead, I go to sleep and don't wake up again until the bus pulls up in front of the big old building where, as Grandma puts it, Daddy is doing a little time. And only on visiting day do I get to tell Daddy everything that has happened over the month while I sit in his lap and he pulls on my braids, smiling his big "me and Grandma have been gone forever" smile, laughing his big laugh, showing me and Grandma off to his friends, pressing peppermints into my hand and kisses against Grandma's cheek. Grandma says it's not forever going to be like this. She says one day we'll be able to wake up and have Daddy right there in our house again, and we won't have to take long bus rides once a month and walk home from the bus stop hand in hand, feeling a little sad, already starting to miss Daddy. Grandma says all it takes is time, a little time, and while we're holding out waiting for Daddy to come home, we can count our blessings and love each other up and make biscuits and cakes and pretty pictures to send Daddy. And in the early evening, if it's a little chilly outside, we can sit out back, bundled up in blankets, and make each other laugh as we make big plans for when Daddy comes home again. I want to share with you the author's note. This is what Jacqueline Woodson says. When I was growing up, I had a favorite uncle. My mother's brother, Robert, was the best dancer in our family. He was funny and handsome and always came to our house with surprising gifts for me. A doll whose hair grew, a pair of skates, a new record that he'd teach me all the words to, a joke I could actually understand. All kinds of things. But my Uncle Robert went to prison when I was very young. I never knew what his crime was, and it really didn't matter. I knew I loved him dearly, and he loved me with the same ferocity. I knew that some of my happiest moments in childhood were spent getting on that bus to go visit him, climbing off hours later and walking through the many steel doors that led to where my uncle was waiting, his hair brushed, his prison uniform cleaned and pressed, his smile brighter than anything. As he laughed and talked with me and my family, I forgot for the moment where we were. I knew we were a family. I knew we were happy. I knew there was lots of love in the room, and on those trips home, I knew there was a sadness surrounding us, and a hope that one day there wouldn't be prison walls, that one day my uncle would be free. Although Visiting Day is a work of fiction, it is based on true events from my childhood. The dad in Visiting Day is a lot like my uncle. The grandmother, a lot like my own grandmother. My uncle died at a young age 2 years ago. When he died, he'd been free from prison for a long time. Only a little over a year later, my grandmother passed away. I dedicate this book to both of them. I am glad I have the memories of my uncle as a free man, but I am also grateful for those Visiting Day memories, waking up before dawn to my grandmother frying chicken and making lunch and dinner for us, and those long, slow afternoons when my family sat with my uncle, laughing and telling stories and loving each other up. I am grateful to James Ransom for his amazing talent as an artist, for making this book whole and beautiful. I am grateful to my uncle and grandmother for giving me this story to tell, and I am grateful to the universe for the gift to tell it all. And this is what James Ransom has to say. When I first received and read Jackie's text for Visiting Day, it stopped me cold. I sat down to gather my thoughts. The story was beautiful, powerful, and emotional, obviously the work of a sensitive artist. First, I thought how fortunate I was to have the opportunity to create images that would accompany this text. Next, I wondered if I had told Jackie about what was going on in my own family, if this was the reason she had asked her editor to send me the story. After all, my brother being incarcerated was a family secret, something we could only whisper about. I could not help but be concerned for my nephews who were in the same position as the little girl in this story. I questioned whether or not we should shed light on such a controversial issue. On the other hand, it was a subject that kids across the country were dealing with every day, and I felt comforted that Jackie was also working from her own personal experiences with visiting days. I had only one visiting day with my brother. The trip was, of course, very emotional for the two of us, but as usual, we covered it with smiles and laughter. It is from that visit that I pull my images for the illustrations in the story. I will never forget the contrast of the clear blue sky and the pure green grass against the cold brick building with black windows that housed him, and the barbed wire fence that separated us for all those months. Finally, I realized I had never spoken to Jackie or anyone else outside my immediate family about my brother's situation. They say that the right stories often find you, and this is an example of how one story found me.